Michael Vasquez with the Oceanside International Film Festival. I have Paula Fouce and Tim Kettle with the film The Dark Hobby.
Paula Fouce.
Paula Fouce and Tim Kettle with the film The Dark Hobby. Can you tell us a little bit about your film and how you chose this subject?
Absolutely. After returning to the Hawaiian Islands to snorkel after many years, when previously there was so many beautiful fish on the reef, so when you'd go snorkeling, I found that there was no one in the water. You know, there may be two fish where before there were dozens and dozens. And when you'd go snorkeling previously, they'd be swimming all around you with the large tortoises, and it was just phenomenal. So I walked back in to return our snorkeling equipment in the shop where we'd rented it from. It was a Snorkel Bob's shop. And I said to the employees, "Where are all the fish?" And they said, "Oh my gosh, that's exactly what our boss keeps talking about. The fish are missing. They've been being collected by the aquarium trade and taken off the reefs." So we thought it's really important to let the public know how that is impacting the ocean and the reef. It's wiping out species, and it's affecting the reef because the hierarchy of reef wildlife that live there, they're all involved with each other. They're feeding off of different, levels in the hierarchy. And if you remove certain species, you've imploded the whole relationship of the reef.
So people in their homes they have these large fish tanks and they want these wild exotic fish, and they're supplying them with these fish and stripping these reefs of all their natural habitat.
Yeah, it happened, like around the 50s, the 60s. The airplanes came to Hawaii and brought all of the people and the collectors started collecting the fish then. And it's kind of multiplied over the years. They take millions of these fish off the reefs every year. They said like 25 million yellow tang came off the reef every year, and that adds up, and suddenly there's no fish left. So
certain species have been wiped out, yeah. And then other ones are impacted as well. And the reason that it's so important to the planet, and as we all know, the oceans are in problems coming from so many directions, plastic pollution, but with these certain beautiful fish that are collected and sold for home aquariums, they are the very ones who eat the algae that's growing on the coral, and they keep everything in balance, because if too much algae overgrows, then the oxygen is not made. And the oxygen from the reefs accounts for even more than the Amazon. It's like 50-60% of the oxygen for the whole planet is impacted by that.
That's amazing. After you were exposed to this, going to Hawaii and seeing the loss of these fish, that inspired you to make this film?
Yes, Paula and Robert got together and they created the title, The Dark Hobby, and we started editing the film. It took us about, I think, maybe 3 or 4 years, because, you edit pieces and it almost works, and then you change it, and finally it works, and you go, oh my God, you start feeling it. It comes across, and you can kind of understand. We had a great cinematographer who was able to shoot the fish in groups and individually. He would follow them around as opposed to letting the fish just kind of swim away. And you see how the fish kind of moves around and starts interacting with other fish. And it shows how they have societies down there. And they live together, and they'll clean their little house. That's their house, that part of the reef. And then when it's gone, you've got this vacuum. There's nothing there. And so it's really distressing. And I think our goal is, like Robert says, if we can get 25% of the people to just go, oh my God, I didn't know this was happening. And then that would create the change. And more people would start saying the same thing. We didn't realize that.
Well, when I watched your film, I had no idea. I had no idea. I always thought that aquariums were beautiful, the fish were beautiful, but I had no idea, where are these fish coming from? How are they replenishing these fish? And it sounds like they get these fish, some of them are dead when they arrive, very few of them stay alive in captivity, and they just keep refilling constantly until it's completely gone.
Yes, when you take the fish off the reef, it creates a constant demand for replacement because a fish, if it's left there to live, many of them will live on the reef for 40 years. But if you take and put one in a home aquarium, they usually die within 1 year of capture. And 90% of them die, on the way or, within 1 year. So it creates a constant need for replacement.
What was it like filming when there are people harvesting these fish on the reefs and you're filming trying to have an awareness and trying to help and save these fish?
Well, the people that filmed the actual fish are divers. They dive the area regularly. And one of the guys, he saw some of them, catching the fish, and they went on shore, and he said, guys, you're breaking the law, don't you? And they get uptight. They get. I'm not going to say they get violent. They probably do get threatening. And he just confronted them, and he kept doing it. And finally, they went away. They stopped going to that one site that was giving them so many fish. So it's kind of a struggle between individuals. Some of them, that's their livelihood. That's all they know, and they make good money capturing these little fish, and they're hesitant to stop, until somebody really comes in their face.
Where can people find you or find a way to get behind this cause?
TheDarkHobby.com. It'd be wonderful if people go there, they stream the film, tell their friends about it, put it on social media, talk about it on social media. We need the public to realize what's going on so that we can effect change. It's very important because we don't need our reefs collapsing anymore, and we don't need to decimate these beautiful species. So thedarkhobby.com, you can also sign a pledge there not to buy reef wildlife. And also ParadiseFilmWorks.com, which is our production company, and we stream The Dark Hobby there as well.
And another thing, too, when you see a fish tank in a doctor's office or a lawyer's office or in a restaurant, they're all over, all Thai restaurants, they have these aquariums. Just maybe say something. And, it's kind of bold to do that, but how else can you get the message across?
Yeah, well, that's the only way. I mean, getting this exposure, I don't think people are aware of what's going on, but now you're making them aware, and it's extremely important for all of us to know about it.
And if you can do it in a way that's not so offensive to the person that owns the aquarium, just let them know, hey, did you know that this is where these fish come from?
Yeah, there's a lot of scientific research that's coming out now and has come out in the last few years because of the age of computers. And fish have feelings. They recognize human faces. They know you're the one that gives them food all the time, and it's true that the pets do know the owners. It's been proven now. They recognize themselves. Some of them have passed a self-recognition test with a mirror. They sing, and also they communicate. They make sounds underwater. So the more people realize that fish are sentient beings, such as happened in Great Britain. In Great Britain recently, they passed a legislation so that you can't put crustaceans in water alive to boil them. And now in Japan, they're trying to pass legislation also to protect chimpanzees. So it's starting to be something that is going to be a movement throughout the world.
It was interesting in your film where you show that they have little communities where they live on the reef. They communicate with each other. They actually know the divers. They come up to the divers.
Yeah, they make friends.
That was really interesting.
It's really interesting.
And as Gail says, it's like, you shouldn't treat them as a commodity. This is like something that I'm going to sell. They're individuals. They're sentient beings. And if we can get people to start thinking that way, I think it'll be a good day.
Thank you so much for being here. It's a wonderful film. If you get a chance to see it, you've got to take some time and watch this film and expose yourself to what's going on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's
streaming on several platforms online. Go to thedarkhobby.com. Thank you.
Michael Vasquez reporting from the Oceanside International Film Festival.